Welcome into Cornhusker Connection. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by the fella Tyler. Real quick before we get into this, what's sure to be a very passion-filled episode. If you're listening to my voice, if you're looking to my face, press the like button, press subscribe. You don't even have to like us. I learned that I was subscribed on YouTube to Austin Malone, who hasn't put out a music video in 7 years, but that's how little you notice it. So even if you don't like us, if you like us, of course, subscribe. If you don't, just do us a solid here.
Please.
But Tyler, a lot's changed since the last time we hopped on. So just to recap, last time that we were here, Nebraska was meeting with 5 different quarterbacks throughout the span of the last week, and we had the pros and cons to all of them. And then as that week kind of progressed, they kind of honed in on Kyle McCord. He was the only one of those 5 to end up coming to Lincoln. Those other guys started dropping like flies. Blake Shapen to Mississippi State, Sam Levitt to Arizona State, if I'm not mistaken. Cam Ward is now visiting the best and the bright in the country that don't include Nebraska. And so everything was looking all Kyle McCord, and that's great. I was very excited about that. I think you were pretty excited about that.
I was. I think that was would be a good pickup, just because he's experienced. He comes from a winning program. He's shown that he can win. Has decent enough skill set to win. So while I said that he was not my first choice, I would still be very excited to have him.
And then even our resident, party pooper, Brooke Byrne, behind closed doors, he was coming along. He was getting behind it, I think. And then all of a sudden, mayhem unleashed. I think it was Monday night. Yeah, today's Tuesday. Of course, what is today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have been Monday. Monday, all of a sudden, one of the top insiders for On3, who's really good with the transfer portal stuff, did a crystal ball, flipped Dylan Raiola back to Nebraska. The guy who's been not right 96% of his crystal balls this year says, oh, yeah, he's going to Nebraska now. So evidently something must have happened. And this all has to come together very quickly because he was scheduled to move in Athens and start practicing with their Orange Bowl preparations here in just a couple of weeks. So everything seemed good. And then folks like Sean Callahan, who are really dialed in with Nebraska, said there's a lot of validity. There's some interest still. I think when Sean Callahan's first video that I saw, he said 2 times something happened. He doesn't know what, or at least it is divulging of what happened, but he said those 2 words 2 different occasions when talking about Dylan Raiola and what's going on with him in Georgia. And so now it looks like that he's back. And then for a couple of days, brother, the energy on Husker Twitter, that I couldn't sleep Monday night. I was so juiced, had to sleep on our magic sleep couch. We were just so excited because now we're getting Kyle McCord and Dylan Raiola. That's 10 stars worth of quarterbacks, and for a program who's never had a 5-star quarterback before, a program who overcame awful quarterback play throughout the season to win 5 games. And now we're set up as good as anybody in the Big Ten is at this very moment, quarterback-wise, for the near future. Then right before we're about to hit record tonight, there's an On3 reporter or the recruiting profile tweeted that Kyle McCord is not coming to Nebraska, and it's been a somber, pre-game, pre-show here a little bit, but just initial thoughts. What are you thinking?
Oh man, it's kind of a lot to unpack. I mean, if Kyle McCord does not come, Raiola is a necessity. Because as you said, there was so much energy pumped into the program at that moment when Dylan Raiola, seemingly flipped to Nebraska. These firm reports. Then to having a plan at that moment to start McCord this year, and then having Dylan Raiola sit for a year, use his red shirt, and then start seemingly the next 2 years. Now McCord's not coming. Now what do we do? Do we start him as an 18-year-old in one of, if not the best conference in the nation right now, and have him go up against the gauntlet that is the Big Ten granted, our first 7 games aren't going to be super, super tough, but it's still a lot of adjusting to do. It's like now I just don't. There's no path now, and it worries me. I'm still super excited to have Dylan Raiola because before we were all talking about this recruitment, Dylan Raiola coming to Nebraska could change the outlook of Nebraska for years to come. Like, this is a huge recruit. If we landed him, then people start looking at, oh, well, if he went there, what is that about? And it kind of opens more doors for other recruits to start even kind of thinking about Nebraska. So landing him is still a huge thing. But now the roadmap is messed up. And I don't know what it looks like. If the reason why he flipped to Nebraska or seemingly flipped to Nebraska is because he wants to play right away. I mean, we're definitely set up for that because we don't have very many quarterbacks. I mean, if Purdy started, I would not be upset. But with all the great quarterback talent on the market, you would like to see some bigger names come and take that place. So to answer your question, I'm worried. I'm optimistic. And yeah, that's how I feel.
And it's interesting because optically, Kyle McCord was an interesting fit because there was something that came out of when his dad was talking about him possibly coming to Nebraska very early on in this process, which, by the way, it feels like a month ago. It was less than a week ago. He was talking. He didn't want to go to a lesser Big Ten team. He didn't want to go to somewhere where he'd have to go through Ohio State, and those are valid, concerns if you're talking about Kyle McCord and what he's got to prove. You got to go somewhere you can put on an NFL tape, this and that. And then it seems like we were the only team that he was really looking at. You're hearing, I mean, Cam Ward's the example. He's visiting Florida. He visited Oregon. He's really in the mix with these high profile guys. He's visiting Miami. And Kyle McCord didn't have any of that smoke. So it seemed like everybody was on board in that realm, as far as Kyle McCord was really only looking at Nebraska after that initial tour of visits with other quarterbacks. It seemed like Nebraska was all in on Kyle McCord. And whenever Sean Callahan writes his book reflecting on his career covering the Huskers, I can't wait for this chapter because there had to have been something that happened as far as a conversation with expectations, what has changed in the development of Dylan Raiola. Because it's hard for me to imagine that the visit didn't go very well as far as because something would have come out sooner if the visit had gone poorly. But everything's just so different. I mean, it's put both of them in a bad spot, really, because starting Saturday, there's a dead period where transfer portal guys can't talk to coaches. Granted, will that happen? Probably. It is what it is. But now Nebraska's back on the market, I would presume, trying to get one of these guys. And Kyle McCord's now looking for a new home as well. So I don't know. They're both in a worse spot than they were just a couple of days ago, which is interesting. We got Brooke Byrne here, Brooke. We're just kind of recapping what a week it's been. First we're going to get Kyle McCord, then we're going to get Kyle McCord and Dylan Raiola, and now we don't get Kyle McCord. What's going on?
Sounds like it's the Raiola show, dude. I don't know how I feel about rocking out with him year one, but no, McCord's got to certainly make you feel that way.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask about. I mean, you obviously answered my question, but I was going to ask, how do you feel about putting an 18-year-old back there? What do you think has changed? Because it seemed like it was, all things were trending toward Kyle McCord coming. He takes his visit. Now,
I honestly don't know what changed, rather than maybe the staff being like, hey, like, if this 5-star kid comes in and we're going to have an open QB battle, I just don't know if that's what McCord's looking for at this stage in his career. where then he wastes another year behind a true freshman. If he lost, that's if he lost, but I think he's looking for more of like a sure thing. Or maybe they took away the NIL money because they're like, hey, we're going to give it a little more to other guys too. I don't know. I'm guessing, but his big thing was he wanted assured playing time and NIL money. So it had to have been one of those two reasons changing.
Well, and I understand where he's coming from. Well, that's probably a big reason why he left Ohio State is because he's got a couple of young guys breathing down his throat. If Devin Brown gets another year of development, maybe he's ready to make that next step, this or that. But it's an interesting spot because from Nebraska's point of view, yeah, I'll open up the competition in the spring and the fall. Let the best guy win. But we want Kyle McCord to be the starter. We don't want him to be our backup. That's not good for anybody. We don't want to give him $1 million to sit on the bench. That's not what we want. We want this very young, very talented Porsche that just pulled up in our driveway unexpectedly to get some opportunity to, put on a good wrap on it, get it up to the specs that we want. And then so we can really let it hum when it's time. When we have a guy like Kyle McCord, we want him to start. In fact, we want him to do so good. He goes to the NFL next year and makes a bunch of money as a first-round draft pick. That's the best case scenario for Nebraska, objectively. And maybe the NIL money is a factor because now you got another high-dollar guy coming in Dylan Raiola. But from Kyle McCord's point of view, I don't think he's going to get more money elsewhere. All the other big dogs are looking elsewhere as far as Cam Ward's direction goes. Dante Moore is still out there, 5-star quarterback who's got plenty of eligibility left. I mean, Oregon's not going to call him. Florida State's not calling him if they get Cam Ward. Miami's all in on Cam Ward as well. I mean, the only other school I've heard him linked to is Syracuse, and Syracuse isn't,
that
bringing out $750,000.
And this whole thing with Raiola really makes me feel better about McCord because I don't know about you guys. I don't want to be in too many recruiting battles with Syracuse. So if there's not really a market out there for him, he would have been all right for like a transitional period for us while we got Raiola's feet wet. But it sounds like there's some steam to them bringing in Jeff Christensen as the QB coach at Nebraska, who worked with Raiola and McCord actually, which is, I don't know, even crazier turn to that. But the only thing that would, make sense to me is they said, hey, it sounds like Raiola is going to be the guy right from the get-go.
And it's interesting how optics work, because if you had told me that in the summer that, all right, well, we're not going to have great quarterback play this year, but then we're going to get Dylan Raiola to come in and start week 1 in 2024, I think I would have been pretty darn excited. I would have been juiced. I would have been hyped. But there's just a sour taste for how this is transcribed, where we could have had 10 stars worth of quarterbacks coming into Nebraska, injecting some life. And it feels so shitty that it's like, oh, we're only getting 1 5-star quarterback. Oh, bummer. But it does feel like that with the, how the last week has transpired.
Yeah, and I don't look at it that way. The thing I'm thinking about most is I don't want to start a true freshman at quarterback. And having McCord there as that transitional quarterback would have made me feel a whole lot better about the development of Dylan, because I mean that's just, to me, and I don't know shit, right? But to me that just seems like the best plan of action for him, because he obviously has high aspirations to go to the NFL and play in the NFL for a long time. I mean, everybody has that dream. So for him not to get that year to get right in a college system, instead of going out his first year and potentially looking like complete dog shit, it worries me that we no longer have like a roadmap to develop these quarterbacks.
Well, and look at what's going on in Austin. I mean, they get the number 1 guy in Arch Manning. He's not just willing to sit 1 year. He's willing to sit 2 years to really maximize his development and get right. So that seems like a more realistic, plan than, just send him out there as an 18-year-old and let him cook for an offense that was dreadful last year.
Yeah. But I think a lot of that has to do with who his uncles are. Like, he seems to have a very level-headed mindset about this stuff. Whereas you wonder what people are telling Dylan, like, oh, you should be a starter day one at a big-time program. Like, you have the talent to do so. And I believe that he has the talent to do all of that. But it's a big jump. It's a big jump from high school to college. And I just hope that he's not backing us into a corner where we can no longer do right by the team because we're so focused on just getting him in the door.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with all that because, I mean, you two have been telling me anything is better than what we've had. So,
And that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I still believe that.
I mean, number 2 overall player, it's a hard transition, but we let Adrian Martinez make that jump as an 18-year-old kid, and that was arguably his
Right. I
best.
forgot. Yeah,
That was
he a
arguably his
trooper.
best year with Nebraska, like
Yes.
statistically. So, there's a lot that goes into it. I would pay attention of when Raiola gets on campus because normally, if you're going to start as a true freshman, you have to like go in the winter before and learn all the plays and all that. I don't know if I've ever seen someone like especially a quarterback start and show up for like spring ball or in the middle of the summer. So I would say he almost has to get like a good 8 months in with the coaches and the guys to indicate he's going to be the starter week 1.
First of all, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought up Adrian Martinez.
Yeah.
And you're right. The whole, and this is what it is about optics, is that it feels like we went from not the rise and fall of Kyle McCord is messing with my head, because I do think that day one he is probably an upgrade with the potential of exceeding the ceiling of any guy who may have ever played here. But yeah, you got to let him cook, and that's a good thing. I do think he'd be an upgrade.
And also, I don't know if you guys saw this today. Did you see Casey Thompson was in Lincoln?
Yeah, I did.
That's nuts.
Well, that was my next question. Is so what are they done now? Are they fine going into the quarterback room with Chubba Purdy being the number 2, Heinrich Harvard playing tight end?
That's if he stays.
Yeah.
Because you would think if they bring in a guy 2 or 3 years younger than him, oh man, I don't know. You would think he would probably be pretty close to jumping in the portal.
Yeah, and it's like it. Well, because what they in theory could do is we'll find another, Kyle McCord S type, a guy who's got 1 or 2 years of eligibility. Will Howard is a name I would throw out there. But also, he's leaving Kansas State because they just got a 5-star hotshot quarterback who's breathing down his neck, ready to play. So I think it hinders kind of what you can do. Obviously, you don't want to bring in like a young guy, and you still want to bring in somebody who is a clear upgrade from the potential of Chubba Purdy, given another year to develop. Other than now, the potential of Dylan Raiola. That's a tough spot. What do they do next?
That
was such a good question. You didn't even want to. Like, I don't want any of that smoke.
Whoa. Sorry, where were we?
What does Nebraska do next? Are they done?
I have no clue. You would think there has to be someone to back him up if he's the guy, but who's going to want to take that job? Backing up a true freshman is the thing.
Well, money talks. So I'm sure you could go out there and buy somebody.
But like who? Like what caliber of player?
It probably wouldn't be anybody super good. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would think not. But maybe a game manager, someone who is backing up somewhere else. I don't know.
And I guess I've had some time to collect my thoughts. And I guess what I'm really worried about is us shifting all of our focus on Raiola, and he doesn't come. Then what?
Oh man,
and that's really what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, because I hope he comes, and I'm rooting for him to come. But his recruitment process has been the most annoying thing to follow. He's 4 high schools in 4 years, which I'm being told is somewhat normal now for high-level guys. The last one being in fucking Georgia where he was committed, and now they're saying he's going to flip. And he's been committed and decommitted 3 or 4 times. So I don't know, even if he commits this weekend, whether or not I'll believe he's all the way in until he's on campus and enrolled in classes.
Yeah, and I think that we're getting a little too late in the game for all that bullshit. I think the next team that he commits to is going to be the team for at least this year, right? Because as you said, if his goals are actually to start this year as a freshman, a true freshman, then you need to be on campus ASAP.
Has to be. I mean,
and it may have been a situation where he did truly want to play at Georgia. And Brooke, I don't think you were here when I brought this up. When Sean Callahan got on three's family of networks on Monday night to talk about the possibility of Raiola coming, 2 separate times he mentioned the 2 words "something happened," whether it's now just an expectation of when he's going to get on the field, maybe an expectation of this or that. Also worth mentioning, Georgia has a weird relationship with their high school recruits. Of the top 10 Georgia high school recruits, only one of them's committed to Georgia, and that's Raiola, who is trending not. Where you look at it, see it like even Alabama, who has similar talent, 3 of the top 15 guys are leaving the state. With the Auburn and Alabama were able to get the rest of them. So something's going on in Georgia. Maybe he did truly want to be a Bulldog. Online, it seems like he's been recruiting guys to come over, but maybe something happened.
You would think, because if you move to Georgia your senior year after committing there, you would think everything's all good and signed, sealed, delivered, and we're this close to the signing date, the early signing period. I mean, this would be a huge flip, once in a lifetime for Matt Rule and company, but something had to have happened behind the scenes. For me, what was really telling was, I think it was the On3 network asked Dylan's dad about him taking a visit to Nebraska this weekend, and that he said his last name's all over that place, talking about Nebraska. It's in his blood, and there's nothing wrong with us, taking a visit there, which the in his blood thing really got me, and is all right, his dad's now your uncle's there, my name's up there. This would be a great place for you. And I mean, possibly his younger brother, who's a quarterback, to leave a mark, family legacy. But
brother, I got goosebumps when he said your name is in the stadium, in the Ring of Honor. That's an intense pitch. And shout out JD Pickell. He put out this take, which is probably one that we're all thinking. If you go to Georgia and you win a national championship, all right, cool. Well, you weren't the first, probably won't be the last with what Kirby Smart's got cooking up there. If you win 10 games at Nebraska with what we've had to deal with, you're getting a statue, brother. You were a legend.
Oh, yeah.
And now you get, first of all, you don't get the age-old attitude. Well, he was surrounded by all this talent at Georgia that anybody could. Dude, brother, we haven't been to a bowl game in 7 years. If you come in and win 10 games, there's no doubt that that's the tougher challenge. There's no excuses. Dude came in, balled like a maniac, and revived a blue blood program that's been DOA the last 7 years.
And the crazy thing is, with how our schedule sets up next year, is you have a chance to start 7-0 and get the bowl game monkey off our back before we have a loss. So, I mean, the sky's the limit, especially with the guys we bring back. Gifford and Ben Hart said they're coming back, and the O-line help we're bringing in. I mean, things are going to be set up pretty good for whoever's going to be our quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and I don't want all this quarterback talk to overshadow the things that we have done this offseason. It looks like Demas is coming to Nebraska.
Huge.
And we just flipped a 3-star offensive lineman late, which he's a walk-on, which confuses me.
Which one?
What's his name? Ruggeroli?
Is it the Vegas kid?
Yeah. He just committed.
Yeah, he comes from Bishop Gorman, which crazy. I mean, that school produces crazy talent, so I'm cool with bringing him in.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So like we're doing a lot of good things this offseason, but the biggest thing is the quarterback, and not having that figured out is really starting to weigh on me for sure.
And looking at the transfer portal, the best guys available right now, Dante Moore, he's not a good fit. Cam Ward, he doesn't want us. Malik Murphy, not a good fit for, as far as like a transitional guy. Will Howard's still available. I've heard a lot less smoke about him going forward. And then I think it takes a pretty big tumble. We got DeQuan Finn from Toledo. Will Rogers is trending towards Washington. DJU, I guess, is still around.
Yeah, the thing I would say to Tyler's point is it's still pretty early because after bowl season, there's going to be another huge wave of people who hop in the portal. Whether it'll be guys will figure out quick, like with their new schools that they transfer at, where they fall at in the pecking order and hop back in. And we're on the freeze right now, like Brandon brought up, the 14 days. So maybe we won't see a whole lot of movement for like a month or two, but I think at some point it'll go crazy again.
But to what Brandon said last week, you don't want to miss out on your number 2 or number 3 guy waiting on your number 1 guy.
I feel like that ship has sailed.
Yeah,
well, also I feel like if you were to really rank it with Raiola, he probably would have been the number 1 guy.
Yeah, and he for sure is. But again, if he's stringing us along and it's like, oh, I'm going to stay at Georgia, and it doesn't seem like that because 8 crystal balls is not nothing.
Normally with smoke like this, the Wilfong bomb, him saying he's coming pretty much assures that guy hits at like a 90% rate when he. And the fact that Callahan, like you said, 8 crystal balls, almost something catastrophic would have to happen this weekend for him not to flip. And
something catastrophic just happened with him at Georgia, it seems. So I don't, and this is certainly the loser mentality that I have with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, right?
That's
like
fair.
It doesn't seem like anything good could ever happen to us. So it's hard to believe in this because so many things have gone wrong when we're like, oh, this is a for sure thing. And it just piles on when the Kyle McCord thing happens. Like, oh, that's for sure thing. And then here we are.
It's also curious to me because I can't wait for Sean Callahan to write a book. But I can't wait for this chapter because what happens if Dylan Raiola isn't coming to Nebraska? Is the plan still Kyle McCord? Is Nebraska still the plan for Kyle McCord? I don't know.
And well, before you answer that, I just want to talk about Kalen, right?
Yeah,
because that boy is getting done dirty right now.
That fucking sucks. And I'm glad that they said they would honor his commitment, but like I understand this is essentially a business. But my God, that kid's been in 10 toes his whole recruitment, and now at the last second we're almost like kicking him to the curb.
Yeah. But also, you think if everything goes to plan, Raiola plays for 2 years, he leaves for the draft, right? Then Kalen gets his own 2 years, and then he, as long as everything goes right, goes to the draft as well, right? Or makes a mark in his own way. So it's true. Not like he's never going to play as long as everything goes to plan, because if Raiola doesn't work out year 1, I think he's gone. I think he leaves.
For better or for worse, Raiola's not going to be here for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So Kalen still has a lot of potential to be the Nebraska Cornhuskers quarterback. It's just if he wants to wait.
Here's the thing is, I mean, I know Raiola is a flight risk, but with us, I think it was more we weren't good enough, and the whole Scott Frost situation was a big turnoff to that family. So, I mean, there is a world in which, say, his pro aspirations don't come true as fast as they want him, where he could be here 3 or 4 years. And that would just be a tough situation for Kalen to wait behind, because that's best case scenario is that Ryle is gone after 2.
I don't see that happening. And the only reason I say that is just because of what he's done throughout his recruitment process. Like, obviously, you look for the best fit, your best way to get to the NFL. And I don't see him staying more than 2 years, regardless. Like, whether he's ready to go to the NFL or not, I feel like after his second year, he's going to leave, play a year somewhere else, probably fucking Notre Dame, because that's just all they do, and then get him in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the case, but I mean, I feel like we're looking at it as what's best for us being Nebraska fans, where when you look at it from Kalen's standpoint, it's
No, I certainly understand where he's
Yeah.
coming from. I get it.
yeah. I don't know. That would be a tough ask for him to stick around, and
Yeah.
I certainly want that to happen because, like you said, that would be 2 years for him to learn and then get to play. But if I was a betting man, is he's gone. It's rare that you ever bring in 2 quarterbacks from the same class like that.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is he's visiting Michigan State, who is bringing in Aiden Chiles, or I'm not sure how to say his name. I'm probably butchering it, but he's a very highly touted quarterback as well. So it's not like a spot where he comes in, maybe just sits a year, it develops, and then he's the path is all his. It seems like he's got some competition wherever he goes. I would like it for it to be here, and maybe it's it. You never know what's going to happen, injury wise, development wise. You just want as many good guys as possible, and especially guys who want to be Huskers. And that's why I'm not going to lose any sleep over Kyle McCord. If you don't want to be a Husker, I don't want you to be here anyways. But Daniel Kalen, he wants to be a Husker. And he's, like you said, 10 toes down. He's at volleyball games. He's at basketball games. Dude grew up a Husker fan. Wouldn't it be cool if he was the guy?
He was working out with Alex Bullock last night.
Just last night.
Passes to him. Yeah. I saw a video. Also, I just got word that Casey Thompson is in the Nebraska student directory.
Whoa.
So
I learned today, and I don't know what, because I was listening to Husker Online. I don't mean to keep sucking Sean Callahan's dick, but I love him. He's the guy I hold most dear when it comes to Husker Insider stuff. There's a path for guys who, if Nebraska doesn't want you to be a scholarship football player, they can offer you what's kind of like an early retirement, where you can come back, keep a stipend to go to school, but you're not playing football, but early retirement, finish out your school here. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's, seasoned guy coming in on the roster. Who knows?
I think maybe that's another reason, McCord didn't commit. Maybe they're saying, hey, Casey Thompson, maybe we'll start the year with Thompson, and if it doesn't go well, you shift to Raiola. Or, I don't know, man, but it would never be a bad thing to have too many quarterbacks. And
no,
we are at least 8-4 with Casey Thompson this year, so
that's true.
I don't know. It'd be pretty sick to have him back.
I mean, he would serve as that guy. First of all, he serves as the guy who comes in with plenty of experience. He's calm and collected. I think he's been in big moments before. He's only got 1 year of eligibility left. And there's also he's not a super talented guy. He gets the program. He wants to be a Husker. Whereas if it's time to let the training wheels off with Raiola, he knows what he's signing up for.
I also wonder if, because this would be Casey Thompson's 6th or 7th year. Maybe there's a Tristan Gebbia at Ohio State situation where he's a GA or trying to get on as a coach somewhere. But if something, God forbid, does happen where he has that eligibility left to where he could suit up if need be.
There's something going on. Or maybe he just loves Lincoln, Nebraska. And then if he
could
loves
be that
Lincoln,
too.
Nebraska that much, get him on the team.
Yeah,
especially if
goddamn.
we lose DK. And
I bet Rule's kicking himself for letting him walk last spring.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. I feel like we're all fine with that. Bummed because we, like all Nebraska quarterbacks in my lifetime, seemingly it just didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. If you had known that Jeff Sims was going to be such a disaster, you have to rely on Heinrich Harburg to get you to 5 wins. It'd be, you wouldn't sleep at night. Let Casey Thompson go.
And they still haven't talked about him, like what he's going to do. Is he staying on as a quarterback or? I mean, early on I heard position swap, but like I haven't heard anything about that lately.
Well, I feel like it kind of depends, right? Like if we can't get a good backup, I think he has to be the backup.
Yeah,
That'd be upsetting. I feel like he gotta.
I would not
maybe.
be thrilled about walking him back out there for another year, but
I'm also still really worried about our scholarship situation.
there's a lot of people who make a lot of money that figure that out. So
Yeah, that's true.
And we're not going to lose like impact guys to that situation. It's going to be, fringe guys who get offered that early retirement, and we'll get you a stipend, we'll take care of you in other ways, but we can't have you take up a spot here.
Yeah, there's always ways around it with this. This 1890 like NIL collective or whatever bullshit. I don't understand it, but I'm not in love with Matt Davidson running it. He was Scott Frost's partner in crime when stuff was going wrong in Lincoln. So I just want to throw that out there.
Also, I have a question for both of you really quick.
Hit me.
So, perfect scenario, Brooke, for you. What do the Huskers look like next year?
I don't know who's QB 1 and 2, but I think best case scenario is you add Raiola and you add Casey Thompson.
If I have if I have unrealistic best case scenario, Cam Ward comes in, he balls out, he goes to the NFL next year.
That would be
even like keeping it in the universe that is reality. I think best case scenario, I think you bring in Will Howard. You offer him a bag. Maybe his options aren't as fruitful as maybe he had thought with the quarterbacks that ended up in the transfer portal and the schools looking out that way. You bring him in. Kind of what I said about Kyle McCord. As a Nebraska program, you want him to win the job. You want to let Raiola ease in, develop. You still get 4 games to use him without burning a red shirt. And then, when the time comes, let the training wheels off. If Will Howard isn't as good as maybe if he struggles, maybe, you figure out a way. That's best case scenario to me. But otherwise, yeah, I would love Casey Thompson. I think that would be serviceable.
It's hard. This is like the Wild West, like trying to guess what's going to happen. It looked like McCord was a fucking done deal, and then here we are. Now it's Raiola, possibly Casey Thompson. I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard.
Tyler, what's your best case scenario?
Best case scenario for me, like realistically, I think Raiola is number 1, right? You got to get him in there because he is the future of this quarterback room for sure. And I feel like the other perfect scenario is you got to find a way to keep Purdy because that is like best case scenario, like best backup quarterback that you could probably have on this roster. Somebody that knows the system, can play at least good enough to win games, and you don't have to pay him that much, which I think is another thing.
That's true. The worry that I have is if you go into this spring with we got Purdy as QB2, odds are if you lose 2 of your quarterbacks, you're fucked anyways. So there's not real value in planning for QB3. But then I don't know. I feel like Purdy puts on good enough tape in the spring. He put on some good tape the last couple of games. If you turn the ball games off early. Maybe he thinks he can get some playing time somewhere, like a group of 5 school. Go put on some tape. He knows if he loses his job to Raiola, he's never going to get it back. I mean, that's a tough spot to ask him to be in. Where I feel like if you go out and bring in Casey Thompson, or even like Brooks said, as bowl games wind down, those guys will be entering the portal, and come springtime, another class of guys will be coming in. Go get a grad transfer, and kind of fill in. I mean, a couple of years ago, we got both Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy in the transfer portal in the same cycle. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. I do like Chubba Purdy, and I'd feel very happy with him as a backup quarterback. To circle back around to your point.
I would have been like in a panic scenario like Tyler was talking about, where we think Raiola is coming and he's not. I would still be fine with rocking out with Purdy. It's not like a top 3 option for me, but he showed enough to where I think he can win some games for us.
I think so too. Yeah. Another year to develop. And I talk about optics again. It would feel very bad if we lose both Raiola and McCord. But at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of this offseason, I was like, I said I would feel comfortable with Purdy as QB1 next year. Granted, I didn't know Raiola and McCord were on the table for us, but I stand by that. I don't want to have to talk myself back into Purdy, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I haven't even changed Heisman Harburg out of my auto text yet.
Love that.
I got a what-if scenario for you guys that I wanted to just throw out to you. I had a night. It was like a dream where I threw this out there, and I had the wherewithal to write it down as soon as possible. So let me just make sure I get this right here. So you can either take it or leave it. Where you take it, this is 100% what happens. If you leave it, anything can happen. Nebraska starts 10-1. They pick up a win against Ohio State or Wisconsin, or however that comes to be. They're 10-1. They control their own destiny to make the Big Ten championship game, and they lose to Iowa to fall out of the top 2 in the Big Ten, led by an offensive masterclass by Iowa offensive coordinator Scott Frost. Nebraska misses the Big Ten, but they finished 10-2. It's 10 wins. Do you take it or do you leave it?
Fuck no. Fuck Scott Frost.
I'll take that.
Iowa. Fuck no.
That's 10 wins.
I'll take that.
Fuck no. Wait. One more time. Fuck no.
I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm afraid Brooks. Right. I mean, that. If I didn't add in the caveat about Scott Frost, do you take that?
I would drive to Wood River, Nebraska, and I'm not. You're right. Never mind. I can't say that.
Oh.
The only thing that we've ever got out of the show is terrorism. So that's where we draw the line.
All right. Well, I was about to say some dark shit, but I caught myself. Scott Frost quite literally drank and fucked away his opportunity here. So for him to go to Iowa and then beat us would just be my nightmare. So I just can't get down with that. I would rather win 6 games and beat Iowa than win 10 and lose to fucking Scott Frost's bum ass.
Okay, how about this then? We're 2-10 or we're 10-2.
You guys aren't gonna like this fucking answer. Fuck Scott. It's the principle. It's the principle.
I get it.
I get it. Yeah, that would be tough.
But give me 10 wins all day.
Obviously,
give me
I would be fucking geeked out for 10 wins, but oh man, fuck that guy. I'll give you the God's honest truth about how I feel about him.
And I'll tell you, I love Scott Frost, and I think he's a great coach. I think great's a stretch. I think he's a really good coach. I think that I want the world for him. I want him to, but I swear to God, if he goes to Iowa in any way, shape, or form, he's dead to me. And
I mean, he has no one to blame about his time at Nebraska not working out more than himself. Like, it's no one's fault but his. So for him to pull the ultimate fuck you move to Nebraska and go be the OC at Iowa would just, I mean, he'd be the devil in this state. He could never show his face here again. Like, that would be something crazy. And I understand like he's a great offensive mind and he's gonna get an OC job somewhere, but anywhere else but the Big Ten or fucking Iowa.
Yeah, I'd even narrow that down just to Iowa, Colorado, or Oklahoma.
Whoa.
Maybe not even Oklahoma anymore.
Yeah. Because
Definitely
we're not going to
Colorado
have
or
to deal
Iowa.
with them
Yeah.
too much, but fucking God.
But as a as a fan base in general, if he does end up in somewhere like Oregon, for example, if he goes back to Oregon as the OC there, do you think a lot of Husker fans will root for him? Or do you think there's a lot of animosity? Okay.
I mean,
I didn't expect that, to be honest.
He burned his bridge himself.
Exactly. It wasn't just like, oh shucks, it didn't work out. Like he was ruining recruiting for us. He was, the players had nothing but negative things to say about him. And I mean, the 30 for 30 on his time here is going to be fucking nuts if there ever is like a tell all about it. But he was just not a very good person here. Like, I think people deserve second chances and whatnot, and I shouldn't wish ill on people. So as long as it's far away from Nebraska and whatever he's doing, I'll say, all right, whatever success he has, good for him. But if he goes to Iowa, I will be hot.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario. And I'd also like to mention here real quick. Yeah, I think he's a great offensive mind, but also Marcus Mariota and McKenzie Milton aren't walking through that door in Iowa. So
And
have fun
that's
fucking trying to score with
exactly. Is he a great offensive mind, or did he just have the benefit of great offensive talent, coming through where he was coaching? Yeah. Who's to say?
And I mean, a great mind can, even if it is a great mind, you can only take it so far. Deacon Hill is not gonna, can't do it. Well, fellas, what a week, man! And we let off with the show, which is what a week it's been. I mean, we had so much optimism going on with the transfer portal this time last week, and then just the roller coaster that it's been on. We go from we just want to upgrade our quarterback to we're getting 10 stars worth of quarterbacks to. Man, I guess we just have to settle for the number 1 overall recruit in the country. Shucks. What a world here! But above all else, I'm super stoked. It seems like if nothing else, if nothing sticks, these guys are being aggressive. They're going after the best. They know what needs to be done, and they're gonna turn over every rock that they need to get it done. And that at the beginning of the offseason, that's all I asked for is that if you have the guys. If you go to war with the guys that you have in place, that's fine. But I just needed you to turn over every rock. And it seems like they're doing just that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Brighter days are ahead, fellas. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red, baby.
Let's go.